Hi, this is Terry from Bonsai Tree, and I'm proud to show you our new range of moss poles. And as you no doubt know, having a moss pole installed or with your houseplant really adds a lot of character to them and gives it a very good vertical height. And the moss pole itself radiates an increased humidity in the area, which your plants love. And you can literally grow any house plant that has vining or trailing, and you can even plant orchids, terrestrial, or rather not terrestrial, epiphytic types of orchids onto the moss pole as well. Okay, so our moss pole consists of essentially three individual components. When you receive yours, it'll look like this with the peg. It is possible, depending on the pot size that you're using, you can cut the peg shorter, but the peg is, the length of the peg is designed to fit most or typical pots that you would use for house plants, or certainly the size that you would use for these moss poles. The wood is treated with an oil to prevent it from soaking up the water, because it is going to be in direct contact with the potting soil of your plant. So most of the moss poles that we saw when we were doing some market research have got coir inside them. But in my experience, a coir doesn't really absorb much moisture. Instead, sphagnum moss is far more effective at doing that. So if you order the moss pole, I would highly recommend that you order some sphagnum moss at the same time. This size, which is the small moss pole, will probably take around a 2-liter bag of sphagnum moss, and if you order the larger one, that'll take about 5 liters, depending on how much you compact it in. So take your damp or wetted sphagnum moss and just push it down into the moss pole. It's fine if just have some kind of receptacle at the bottom for what falls through, and you're just going to gently compact that and fill the entire moss pole with sphagnum moss. The great thing about our moss poles is the diamond opening that the cylinder is made up of is quite wide, so there's a lot of space or venting that humidity can escape through. The material that the moss pole is made of is a sort of plastic. It's molded, so it's an integral cylinder. It's not something that's been rolled up and cable tied or wire used to hold it together. It is a molded cylinder, and we have nice large openings, diamond-shaped openings, through which the humidity can escape, and that your plants can actually sort of grow into, even if they wish. So once you've got your moss pole loaded with your sphagnum moss and your plant is ready, I prefer using clay containers than plastic, because it's a little bit weightier at the bottom, so your center of gravity will be lower down. Means that if the plant does grow taller, that it's not going to topple over very easily. Try and, if you've got a single plant, plant it perhaps off center, or if you have two plants, plant one side and another plant the other side, which will enable you to place your moss pole between them. So yeah, we have this plant is spaced as we want, and now we just use the spike and push it firmly into the soil until it reaches the soil level, and now the moss pole is in place. So the final step in installing your moss pole is to secure your plant to the pole itself, and you're going to do that by arranging the vine of your plant however you please aesthetically, and using the vine clips that are supplied with the pole, you're going to secure it. And we've got another one here, so we'll bring this up and we'll coil this around there, and we'll secure it on the other side. And it's best to do it where you've got an internode, so where a leaf is emerging. It's a bit thicker there, and it'll use that leaf stalk on which to that'll prevent it from sliding out from the vine, the vine clip itself. And there we have it. It's installed, and now your plant will just continue to vine around the moss pole. And then the last thing that I need to tell you about is how you mist or how you water with your moss pole. So the best is to actually mist the moss itself, obviously your plant as well, but if you keep the moss moist, then your humidity is definitely going to be higher in that area, and the sphagnum moss retains a lot of the water and will release it slowly out into the atmosphere, and yeah, your plants are going to love it.